All right. I don't know if you heard about this, Matt, but David Hasselhoff has actually changed his name to David Hoff because it's less hassle that way.
Oh, my God.
I warned you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
Yeah, I don't know. Man, it has been crazy.
Yeah.
For the last probably 4 or 5 days, and I'll be honest, I spent the entire day today thinking it was Thursday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sometimes that stuff happens.
Yeah. Oh, I did that earlier this week. It was like Tuesday or something, and I didn't realize it was Tuesday. I was like, what day is it? Couldn't figure it out. But yeah, we got it. We figured it out now. We know what day it is because we're both here. But before we get into it, we'll say go check out the Podbelly Network at podbelly.com. You can find a list of shows that we're happy to be associated with, and you can find some tips and tricks on podcasting if you're into such things. Do Matt and I a favor and share Graveyard Tales.
Yeah.
Get out there and share one of our posts on Facebook, X, or Twitter. Share one of our video links with people. Just share the Graveyard. We want to get more people in the Graveyard so we can get more of your stories during our listener stories season. And because we love that. We love hearing from you listeners. And I know that there are some people that that have not listened to Graveyard Tales, and we need to rectify that. Get them listening to us.
Right.
Also, if you got some stickers, Graveyard Tales stickers or something, go slap some on random telephone poles downtown. I see people doing that with bands. We need to start that with Graveyard Tales stickers. Also, while you're on the internet sharing one of our posts, go over to patreon.com/graveyardtales. Sign up to become a patron. We've got 3 different levels, and all of our levels get a bonus episode. Our $5 and $10, they get the audio and video of the bonus episode, plus they get the ad-free audio and video versions of the main episodes. Then our $10, they get all of that stuff, plus they get our second show, Side Quest, which has been now going a little over a year, which is hard to believe. But we put one out every week, minus a week here and there for different occasions. But we guarantee you there's going to be a topic that we discuss on one of those tiers in Patreon that you are going to enjoy. And it's stuff that does not necessarily pertain to what we talk about on Graveyard Tales.
Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot of fun. So go check it out. And we've got tons of bonus content. So if, you're all caught up, you're like, well, what am I going to listen to now? Look, go and check out our Patreon. Check out Side Quest. I really think you're going to enjoy it.
Yep, exactly. So on that note, Matt, I don't think I have anything else. So why don't you tell us, what are we talking about tonight, brother?
Well, there's not a lot of castles in North America.
Right.
There's some, but not like there is in Europe.
Right.
They're, more modern and so forth. So, to start kind of poking around and looking at, let's check out the haunted castles. We've done a lot of them. I wonder if there's one we've missed. And there is. And it's in Geneva, New York, of all places.
Yep.
So
I didn't even know there was a Geneva, New York until we started doing this. That's how little.
I didn't either.
That's how little I know about New York.
Well, and the thing is New York is huge, as a state. So, I mean, everybody thinks about New York City, which is huge in and of itself. But then when you consider how many people live in New York in the state, you're like, golly, it's
upstate
really
New
big.
York and all that.
Yeah. And so when I saw that this was in New York, I was just like, okay, my interest is piqued. Let's take a look. Tonight, we're going to talk about Bellhurst Castle.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be on your radar. It certainly wasn't on ours.
No.
So, tonight may be one of those shows that you're going to learn something about a place you didn't even know existed. And it's a pretty interesting place. It's like I said, there's not a lot of castles in North America. We've said this before. The United States is not that old.
Right.
Europe is very old. So there wasn't a lot of these structures that are more than 300 years old that would qualify as a castle. But this one is a castle.
Yeah.
And it's still pretty old, even for North American standards. It's got a pretty cool story, and it's got some interesting legends associated with it. So, as always, we say that the history of the place is significant because it leads into why this place is haunted, who would be haunting it, what you're gonna expect because of the things that have taken place there.
Right.
So, Adam, tell us the history of Bellhurst Castle.
All right. So as we always say, go check our sources down at the bottom of the show notes. We source everything that we find. You can find those links or book titles or whatever down in our show notes, so you can verify that we're telling you the truth and who actually went there and visited the place, because Matt and I can't always get to these places. Most often, we can't get to these places. So we have to take it on the people who have been there and experienced it firsthand, and all those sources are in the bottom of our show notes. Now, Bellhurst Castle is located on the shore of Seneca Lake in Geneva, New York, like Matt was saying. Now, before the castle was built, that land was indigenous land. Now, this comes directly from Bellhurst history that they have compiled. But the property that surrounds Bellhurst Castle and the castle sits on and all this, it was the site of the Seneca Indian village, and it was home to the Council of Six Nations of Iroquois. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find any information on the Seneca Indian village that was there in any of the references that I had. There was no discussion of the layout of the village or anything that went on there, but there was a Seneca Indian village in that area. But I did find some stuff on the Council of the Six Nations of Iroquois. It was a governing body that was formed by the union of six indigenous nations: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, the Seneca, and later the Tuscarora. Then they were added in 1722. Now, this confederacy is considered one of the oldest participatory democracies in the world. So this confederacy, it was founded under the Great Law of Peace, which was an oral constitution that established principles of unity, peace, and collective governance. This law was attributed to I'm going to skip saying his name because I'm going to butcher it, so I will just give you the how it's translated. His name was translated into the Great Peacemaker, and a couple other individuals, Hiawatha and Jigonsasa. I apologize.
Close enough.
I apologize. Now, it was initially formed by 5 nations. So the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, Cayuga, and the Seneca. Now, it aimed to resolve conflicts between these groups and promote peace. Then the Tuscarora joined later after migrating from the Carolinas. So they were having, infighting, lots of wars and battles and killing between the tribes. And so the leaders of these nations said, we need to come to an agreement. So they formed the Council of the Six Nations of Iroquois, and it happened right here on this land. Now, in the early 18th century, the land actually became part of the state of Massachusetts and was purchased by two 18th century land developers in the spring of 1738. Now, apparently, those land developers changed their mind about developing the land because it was again sold in 1810 to a group of businessmen. So they had this land, but didn't really do anything to it. They didn't develop it much. And then they sold it in 1810 to this group of businessmen. And those businessmen built and operated Ontario Glass Manufacturing Company on that land. And it was considered the first glass company west of Albany. So, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Now, in May of 1824, the land got divided among the stockholders of the Ontario Glass Manufacturing Company. William DeLong received the largest, most desirable part of this land, and it's the area that's now home to Bellhurst Castle. So William DeLong they parceled it out, and he lucked out and got the best drumstick off that turkey.
Yeah, what did they draw straws or something?
I guess.
They cast lots like it was in the Bible.
Yeah.
William gets the best part of this.
Yeah. It may have been, who was the biggest shareholder got
maybe
to pick. It could have been an arm wrestling match. They could have measured each other's, and whoever
measured each other's land.
Yeah, that's it.
We're going to measure the land.
Yeah, let me measure your land. And if your land is bigger than mine, you'll get the better piece.
Again, it just goes to the whole thing you and I have talked about before. It's like, I want to go back in time so I can obtain some of this land that, people were essentially giving away.
Yep.
It's like, oh, well, I'll just take this chunk of 700 acres.
Right.
It's like,
right.
What?
Yeah. If only I had a time machine. I've told y'all my plan, if time travel ever becomes a thing and I can screw up the whole history of the world, I'm going to go back in time, buy a big plot of Texas ranch land.
Yeah.
And in the deed, I'm going to say it cannot be sold until whatever I am. I'll figure it out then. The great.
Until Texas is independent again.
Yeah. There you go. It has to stay in the family until Texas regains its independence from the United States.
Yeah.
And that way I will inherit hundreds of acres.
Mm-hmm.
Some, down the line. But I know that would screw up the whole history of everything. So we got to figure out how nihilistic I am at that point.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. DeLong didn't apparently want to do much with that land either. He just wanted to sell it again. So he was like, I'm going to take the most desirable property on this plot of land and not do a dadgum thing with it. I'm just going to sell it and take my money and run. And that's what he did. So he sold it to a man named Joseph Fellows. Now, Fellows was a lawmaker who was native to Warwickshire, England. He came to Geneva in 1820 as a sub-agent in that area. So Fellows had the land for 10 years before he built the first modern residence on that land. And when he did, he called it the Hermitage. So apparently, Andrew Jackson had to go beat him up to get that name.
Well, you know what that term means. It means the home of a hermit.
Right.
And I guess Fellows didn't really get along with a lot of other fellows, and so he decided, I'm going to build my own place here, and the rest of you can leave me alone.
Yep. But the weird thing about that, Matt, is he built that house, but he didn't really live in it.
I know. I know, it's crazy.
But that name works perfectly for who actually did live in it.
Right. He was thinking ahead.
He was thinking ahead because he had a man named William Henry Buck, or Bucky. How would you pronounce that? Bucke.
When I was reading it in my head, it was just Buck because it had an E on it because it was English. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll go with Buck. William Henry Buck, living in the residence there, and he lived there under a deed of trust. So Mr. Buck used the alias Henry Hall, but most people in the area knew him as Buck Hall. Because of his desire for seclusion, he lived in the hermitage alone, except for one servant. So the hermitage lives up to its name by the resident that Fellows had living there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the spring of 1836, Hall fell over an obstruction and broke his leg. Well, he didn't seek medical attention, and so he later died of blood poisoning just a short time after that. So
it's amazing to me that this guy breaks his leg and dies of blood poisoning, the stuff that could kill you in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you break your leg now. I don't ever meet anybody that broke their leg and developed blood poisoning.
Right.
So it must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, it must have been a compound fracture or something.
It broke through the skin.
Yeah.
Why, if that happens, would you go, I don't need no doctor? Yeah.
If I look down and there's a bone sticking out of my leg, I'm going to the damn doctor.
Right. If you're bleeding, you got a bone sticking out. Why would you it'll heal. Rub some dirt on it. What the hell's wrong with you?
That white protrusion wasn't there a minute ago, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
We're going to talk more about him later. He is an interesting cat. Let me tell you.
Yeah, he is. And I'll get into that too. Now, on his death, it was learned that William Henry Buck had been the treasurer of the famed Covent Garden Theatre in London. Now, he had apparently embezzled funds from the theater, married his stepmother, and then fled to the United States and then assumed the name Henry Hall in an effort to avoid capture.
Yeah. So, like I said, he's an interesting dude.
Interesting is putting it lightly.
Yeah.
You embezzle funds and marry your stepmother. Interesting is mild.
Right.
Now, from the time of Hall's death until 1852, the property changed hands twice and then was purchased by Harrison G. Otis on November 10th of 1852. Now, Otis is the person who named the property Bellhurst, which they say means beautiful forest. So over the years, the property changed hands within the Otis family. So they just kind of passed it around to different members of the Otis family. And on February 28, 1877, Mary Otis sold a strip of land along the lake to the Syracuse, Geneva, and Corning Railroad Company. But Mrs. Otis made the railroad company agree to maintain and preserve a right-of-way across the tracks so she could have access to the lake. Now, the cool thing is the railroad company is still obligated to comply with the agreement that they made with Mary Otis over 130 years ago. So that's pretty cool. She was a smart lady saying, look, you can build here, but I still need to be able to get to my lake.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're still holding to that, which is cool. Now, in 1878, the property and the land that's now Glenwood Cemetery was taken over by the United States Trust Company, and the Otis family ended up relocating to Virginia. Now, the property, it at that point kind of remained vacant for 7 years, and during this time, it was known as Otis Grove. And it became this popular picnic area for the people who lived in Geneva. Well, the Hermitage was still located on the property, and it was rumored at that point that the house was haunted.
Yeah.
Even back then, they were like, hey, man, this house is haunted. Don't go there. You know, a lot of people believe there was an escape tunnel built by Buck Hall as a means to escape if the authorities found him.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty interesting. All right, so let's take a second and talk about one of tonight's sponsors. That's Fume. Now, we've talked about Fume before, but if you haven't heard us talk about it, let's do that now. Now, here's the thing. You know, Matt and I discuss a lot of mysteries and everything in this show, but it's no mystery that everybody has some kind of bad habit. And, you know, it's best if you can quit those bad habits. I know Matt and I have both had bad habits, and for me, my habit was starting to annoy me, not just everybody around me, but it was annoying me as well. So one of the things that we tried is Fume, and it's a smarter alternative. It's a flavored air device. It's not a vape, it's not a pipe, but it's something completely different. Fume lets you satisfy that urge to reach for something without nicotine, vapor, or batteries. Plus, it comes with amazing flavors. You can get crisp mint, cinnamon hearts, and peach blush so that you can change things up. And I'll tell you this, Matt, I said this on the last time we talked about it, but it's 100% true, and I'm still proud of her. My mother-in-law saw the Fume that I was using, and she goes, "What is that?" And so I told her about it, and we got her one. Dude, so proud of her. That's her go-to now.
That's awesome.
And every time she sees me, she's like, "I love this thing. Thank you so much. It's so handy, and it's helped." And I'm like, see, I would not steer you wrong.
Yeah. And, you know, my biggest issue was always, I got to do something with my hands.
Right.
You know,
right.
when I'm driving, when I'm sitting here reading, doing research, my hands have got to be occupied, and the Fume is great at this. It's weighted, so you actually feel like you're holding something substantial. It's clicky. It's got strong magnets, so you can kind of pop it back together, and it gives you something that you can put in and out of your mouth. So it really helps to break all the other little idiosyncrasies that come along with bad habits.
Yeah.
You know, by, you know, replacing them with something that's healthy.
Right.
The flavors, you know, cinnamon, that's my go-to. You know, it really helps when you have that flavor, and all you're doing is breathing in flavored air.
Right.
But it really makes a difference when there's a flavor there.
Sure.
And, you know, I think it's really designed to help get rid of those bad habits. If you want to, give it a go, and I promise you'll be surprised at how much you enjoy it.
Right.
Fume has already helped over 400,000 people. That is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And now you can take steps towards better habits as well. It's springtime. It's a time of change. Change your bad habit. You can use our code TALES, TALES, to get a free gift with your journey pack. Just head to tryfum.com. That's TRYFUM.com, and use our promo code TALES, TALES, to claim this limited time offer today.
That's right. While you're doing spring cleaning, spring clean out those bad habits. You can pick up a free gift with a journey pack if you use our code TALES, TALES, at tryfum.com. That's code TALES at tryfum.com, and claim the limited time offer today. Now, May 13th, 1885, Miss Carrie M. Young Heron, wife of Samuel V. Heron of New York City, came to Geneva. She looked at Otis Grove, asked the price, and then purchased the property that very day. So, don't you wish you could do that too?
Yeah.
Just go somewhere and go, I like this. How much? Okay, mine.
I can do that with a sandwich.
Right. Right. And that's on a good day. I mean, a sandwich is.
How much is that sandwich? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're right. There may be a day where I go, oh no, that's too much.
Too rich for my blood.
Can you keep your sandwich?
Take the pepperoni off. Then how much is it? Is it still the same?
Show him hunger.
Mm-hmm. Now, after purchasing Bellhurst, Miss Heron moved to Geneva, and she was accompanied by her manager, Captain Lewis Dell Collins, who was a native of Rose, New York. Her husband stayed in New York City, though. Well, shortly after she got to Geneva, Mrs. Heron divorced her husband, and then on June 6, 1888, married Captain Collins. So she had a plan the day that she bought that.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I'm leaving my husband. Now, how am I going to do this? And so she bought her land, then moved. Yeah. And after she got moved, she was like, hey, honey, bye.
Yeah, that's right. I'm out.
Mm-hmm. But in the spring of 1888, Mrs. Collins now had the old house that the Otis family lived in torn down, and she was preparing it for the 4-story mansion that she was building. Now, it took 50 men working for 4 years to finish building Bellhurst Castle. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, but they built things faster then. This would now take 25 years,
right,
and 2,000 men to build for some reason.
Yeah.
Especially there where you've got to have all these permits and stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
You got to get a permit to put this in. You got to get a permit to poop. You got to get a permit to use the tree as a bathroom stop, you know.
Do you got a permit for that drawbridge?
Yeah, right.
You got to go to the drawbridge permit office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have a permit to put drywall up? Well, that's another 2 months. You got to wait for the... Now, during this time, the time of building it, one man was killed when he fell from the tower, and then another man went insane while putting on the roof. Now, I've done roofing work. I can see how that will drive you insane.
I just thought that was so funny the way it was so matter of fact that he went insane while constructing the roof.
Yeah.
What was going on the roof?
Yeah. They said it like it was common. Like, this happens all the time. You know, you've got Matt as a hatter.
Mercury in the building of a roof.
You got Matt as a hatter. Well, we also have as loony as a roofer. I mean, but in the roofing work I've done, yes, it does make you feel like you're going insane. But maybe that's what's wrong with me. I don't know. I've done too many roofing jobs. Now, all the materials that they used to build and to furnish her castle were imported into Geneva. A lot of them came from Europe. So during the time of this construction, which was 1885 to 1889, the locals talked a lot about what Miss Collins was building on the property.
Well, yeah. She
was talk of the town. You know, and they say that a woman of her means made quite an impression on the people of Geneva. And, you know, in the late 1800s, there weren't too many women who had that kind of money and power.
Right.
So a woman like Miss Collins doing that did cause a stir in the small town of Geneva.
Yeah, and the fact that she was building a castle.
Right.
I mean, that just was odd enough.
Mm-hmm.
But you put everything together and you're like, what the heck? Where did this woman come from?
Right. That's the thing. She wasn't born and raised there. She just showed up one day, bought the land, and started building a castle.
Yeah.
Now, this castle, they said it became a symbol of luxury in Geneva during its time. Now, the architectural firm Fuller and Wheeler are the ones that designed the mansion, and they designed it in a Romanesque revival style. They used Medina sandstone imported from Europe to build it, which is fancy. So, not any old sandstone. I got to have Medina sandstone imported from Europe. I can only imagine what that cost. It was probably ridiculous even then.
So, going back to the whole, it took 4 years to build.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was no FedEx. They weren't
right.
flying the
right.
sandstone from Europe here. It was being loaded on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, it had to get from wherever it was to said ship.
Yeah, it was several months just to ship it.
Right. I mean, there was no Amazon Prime here. I mean, it took a long time to just get the materials.
Right.
To build, and they still did it in 4 years.
Right, which is just crazy. Just crazy. But the 3-story mansion that's there has a 9-bay window facade. It's got a slate gable roof, projecting porches, towers with conical and pyramidal roofs, eyebrow windows, and what they call a porte cochere with a Syrian arch. So the estate also had several auxiliary buildings. They had a manager's house, a boarding house for workers, 7 barns, a coach house, an ice house, originally built as a schoolhouse, and a playhouse with stone fireplaces. They also had a heated poultry house that was heated by a Furman steam boiler, and it had wire partitions in there, and it was also constructed to house several breeds of fowl that she kept. So she was a procurer of different types of fowl. But they said her prized possessions was a pair of Japanese golden pheasants that she kept in this heated poultry house. Now, Hal Heron Jr., Mrs. Collins' grandson, ended up inheriting the property after she died. Cornelius J. Red Dwyer purchased Bellhurst in 1932, and he operated it as a speakeasy and a gambling casino.
Mm-hmm.
Then Robert and Nancy Golden bought Bellhurst from Dwyer in 1975, and they converted the upper floors into guest rooms. So Dwayne and Deb Reeder then purchased the property in 1992, and Kevin Reeder currently owns and operates Bellhurst Castle. He's Dwayne Reeder's son, and he's been involved with the business there since 1992. But today, Bellhurst Castle has a lot of services that it provides and attractions. The property has 3 lodging options, so Vinifera Inn, Chambers in the Castle, and White Springs Manor, and they have a bunch of different accommodations, from historic castle rooms to modern rooms. They've got Edgar's Restaurant in the castle and Stonecutter's Tavern, and they have a bunch of different dining experiences, fine dining, casual. Bellhurst Estate Winery produces award-winning wines along with craft beer and hard cider under Mabel Oat Soda Company. And they have a tasting room there that overlooks Seneca Lake, which would be kind of cool.
And what one thing I read was that they have like open spigots that you can just walk up to and get the wine from.
That's nice. That's nice.
I was just like, what in the world? This is like a wine lover's dream right here. Mm-hmm. Just walk. Oh, you need some wine? Yes, you don't see a bottle. Just go to the spigot.
Yeah, right.
Well, all right.
You got it.
That's not for washing your hands, you know.
And also, use a cup, please. Don't just put your mouth under it.
That's right. The Barney Gumble style.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm sure somebody's tried it.
Oh, you know it.
Adam, man, I know how hard it is to get a good night's sleep. And
oh, yeah.
I normally sleep pretty well. But boy, I tell you what, when I can't, it is a struggle. And that's why Adam and I are so excited to tell you about something that's, it is amazing. It has made a huge difference for when I cannot get to sleep and I need to get to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Beam's Dream Powder. Beam's healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients that have shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Whether that's going to work or showing up to hunt ghosts.
Right.
Either way, you're going to be ready because you've had a great night's sleep.
Right. And it's exactly like you said. I probably have a harder time sleeping than you do. I don't know what it is. I think it's my brain that just will not shut off and let me relax. And I've noticed for years that when I don't get a good night's sleep, the next day I'm groggy, I'm worn down, I can't think as quickly. It's just a culmination of junk when you can't get a good night's sleep. And the cool thing about Beam's Dream Powder is that you don't wake up groggy like you do with other sleep aids, because it's all science-backed stuff like Matt was saying, and it helps you get to sleep. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, so there's nothing synthetic in there that will make you groggy. It's reishi mushrooms, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin, and it's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. And we can attest to that. We take this stuff all the time, and we don't wake up feeling groggy. And I've noticed, just personal experience, it doesn't stop working. Like you take other sleep things, and after a while, it stops working, and it doesn't put you to sleep like it used to. Beam's Dream Powder is not that way. Plus, it tastes incredible. It's our nightly routine. It's simple, easy, effective, and it's like having an indulgent cup of hot cocoa before you go to bed. And it's good for you. It's not as bad for you as a cup of sugary hot chocolate before bedtime.
Yeah.
Plus, we're not the only ones that it's helped. Beam has already improved 17.5 million nights of sleep, helping people across the country wake up and feel their best. Now, here's the deal. Beam is giving our listeners the best offer yet of up to 40% off. You can try their best-selling Dream Powder and get 40% off for a limited time. All you got to do is go to shopbeam.com/grave and use our promo code GRAVE at checkout.
That's right. It's shopbeam, BEAM.com/grave and use our code GRAVE, GRAVE, for up to 40% off. Go hunt those ghosts because you've had a good night's sleep. Try Beam today.
But they've also got the Isabella Spa and Salon that does what you think they do, massages, body treatments, hair stuff.
Put some hot rocks on you.
Exactly. And the castle hosts weddings, special events, and conferences in the ballroom. And they've got this picturesque venue with no venue fees for the wedding. Yeah. So they do a lot now.
Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a nice venue. It's in a beautiful part of New York in the Finger Lakes. So,
yep.
Very, very scenic and, just a good all around place to host an event like this. So go check it out. It's a nice place to go, and we'll see you later. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, well, hey, this has been an easy episode to edit.
They were like, What are they working for Zillow now? What the hell?
Yeah, right. Well, Bellhurst paid us to give them an ad, so this was just a really long ad.
Right. Nah, we promised you some ghost stories and we got them. And not only have staff members experienced odd paranormal activity, visitors and guests have also seen quite a few things. But Bellhurst's most famous, most well-known ghost is that of Isabella, who the spa is named after. But Isabella was a beautiful opera singer, and she's often seen dressed in white. Guess what they call her?
Fred.
Yeah, the lady in white.
Of course. Of course.
Come on, y'all. There's only like 200 of these already.
Right. We've said so many times that y'all need to get more creative with a ghost wearing white.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
the lady in white. Which one? The one at here or here or here?
Pardon me. Do you have a lady in white at this hotel? Well, as a matter of fact, we do.
Actually, we've got two.
But according to the local stories, Isabella fled with her forbidden lover. I love this. Spanish Don.
What a name.
Spanish Don.
Spanish Don.
It sounds like a character on Sanford and Son or something, I know. So that's Isabella funny. And Spanish Don fled to America, where they built a house with a secret tunnel. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Hermitage, right?
Yeah.
When the authorities came looking for them, they tried to escape through the underground passage to their awaiting boat, only for the tunnel to collapse on Isabella. Yeah, That sounds like a great story, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it would be if they didn't have so many connections to actual people, okay? So the legends, they differ depending on where you look.
Sure.
The account that is given in Bellhurst Castle's pamphlet, okay, the little brochure that you can get when you visit, is called The History of Bellhurst Castle, and it says that Isabella was actually married to William Buck. Okay. So was Isabella his stepmother? Or what? I mean, who knows?
Was he Spanish Don?
Yeah, that's just another thing. William Buck sounds a lot like a guy that would go by the nickname Spanish Don.
Yeah, right. Right.
Oh, okay. But anyway, the pamphlet says that William Buck was an honest man who was both treasurer and manager of London's Covent Garden, where Isabella performed in the 1800s. Now, David Sackmeister's account in his book.
What a name.
I know.
Sackmeister.
Sackmeister.
That's not only my name, it's my profession. What?
Oh, my God. I'm the Sackmeister. It doesn't look that way. I'm looking at it spelled out. It doesn't look that way. So it didn't occur to me that, I think this is the first time I've said it out loud. I've just read it up to this point.
Yep.
So anyway, David Sackmeister, he wrote a book called The Bellhurst Story. And the Sackmeister's book claims that Isabella was Buck's mistress, and a dishonest William Buck ran off with money he stole from the Covent Garden. That sounds more like the story that Adam told.
Yeah.
Both stories agree is that the two traveled to Geneva and settled on the property that is now Bellhurst Castle. Now, another item that both of these legends agree on is that Isabella and William knew that they would be pursued and found one day. Which is kind of weird because in the original, in the Bellhurst history of the Bellhurst Castle for the pamphlet, it makes it sound like they were just these starstruck lovers that moved to the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's pursuing them?
Right.
I mean,
who's looking for you? What did you do?
Yeah, but they knew they would be pursued and found. Listen, if I leave Europe in the 1800s and I go across an ocean to this little area in New York, I pretty much think I've gotten away.
Right. I don't expect to be found.
I mean, how in the world did somebody track them? I mean, it's not like they made a Facebook
GPS
post.
and DNA.
You know? GPS. They ping their cell phones.
Yep.
See? They were on Instagram and, they could put together the background.
Now, Matt, let's not get crazy. They didn't have Instagram. It was MySpace.
MySpace, right. Yeah.
They followed their MySpace posts.
But it just, I don't know. It's a little strange. But that is supposedly why William Buck built the tunnels beneath the property. He was building his escape route in case he ever needed it. Now, the sources also agree that they were pursued to Geneva and were very close to being apprehended. But the two fled down into the tunnel that led to Seneca Lake. And this is where their demise is different. In Bellhurst telling, when they escaped through the tunnel and reached Seneca Lake, Isabella was swept away by a huge wave. It's a tragic end. The beautiful opera singer is swept away.
Yep.
But our buddy David Sackmeister, his research led him to a story in which Buck had installed a mechanism in the tunnel that would cause it to collapse when he set it into motion. This would crush the people that were chasing them and kill them. So not only would he escape, he would kill his pursuers. When they reached the end of the tunnel, opening up into Seneca Lake, Isabella dropped her torch and she went back to get it. But Buck told her to leave it and to hurry to the boat that was waiting. But he felt a breeze go past him. And so he felt Isabella has run past, and he activated the mechanism. But Isabella had not gone past him, and she was killed in the collapse of the tunnel. So Buck essentially killed Isabella himself with his fancy tunnel collapsing mechanism.
I mean, it's a cool mechanism, but I mean, you going off just feel. I felt breeze go past me.
Right. It doesn't really matter which legend you adhere to. They're both pretty neat stories. But what you need to know is that to this day, the White Lady is said to walk the shores of Seneca Lake. And she is supposedly grieving her lost lover. She's been seen standing at night in the middle of the front lawn or as an apparition flying in through windows. That's wild.
Yeah.
Locals still insist that in the dead of night, they have seen the couple, both spirits, walking hand in hand across the property. And there have also been reports of an apparition of a man wearing a top hat. And that apparition is attributed to William Buck. So like I said, real people, we don't really know. There are other sources that say that William Buck indeed married his stepmother, which in this case would have been Isabella. They obviously had a connection in Europe. And they obviously had a reason that they needed to get out. So I don't know. It's a really cool story, but there are plenty of folks that claim to have seen the Lady in White. And there are even staff members who, if you meet the right one, have shown guest photographs of her. Yeah. Now, Staff at a haunted hotel are always the best ones to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay, they're there most often. They are going to have the most experiences, and they're going to be in the empty rooms. They're going to be in the restaurants after closing time. So they're going to have the most opportunity when things are quiet and something could possibly happen. But staff say they have witnessed everything from showers turning on and off in guest rooms to bottles and glasses flying around the bar. They have even come into work to find tablecloths tied to the chandeliers. I mean, if that's a prank, it's a good one. Like,
Yeah.
I don't typically do pranks that would involve me climbing a ladder. Okay? So,
Yeah.
like, wouldn't it be cool if we could tie the chandeliers or tie the tablecloths to the chandeliers? Yeah, that'd be great. Do you got a ladder with you? You know,
I don't
that's
carry
going to
ladders
be a
on.
giveaway.
Yep. I don't carry ladders on prank runs.
Right. Now, guests report hearing the sounds of a soft lullaby being sung in the middle of the night. This is very common. The sound of children playing and screaming in the room next to them, but this is most commonly reported by pregnant women. So pregnant women who stay at the Bellhurst are the most often the people that have this type of experience where they hear the lullaby or children playing or even children screaming in the next room.
All right, y'all. So we wanted to take a second and give a shout out to a new podcast that we have been listening to nonstop here in the graveyard. And it's called Scared All the Time. And it doesn't matter what kind of podcast that you're into normally, but if you're listening to us, you'll fit in really well there. America's #1 fear-based podcast has got it all. True crime, the paranormal, horror, conspiracies, history, science, culture, monsters, and more. Now, Scared All the Time is hosted by Ed Vacola, a comedy writer with credits like Rick and Morty and Last Man on Earth, and Chris Kalari, writer, director of the Malin Ackerman thriller The Aviary, and projects in the works at Blumhouse and Netflix.
Yeah, in each episode, Chris takes a deep dive into one of the most frightening topics he can find and terrifies Ed with true stories of all kinds of death, murder, mayhem, and monsters. Together, they've covered everything from plane crashes to twisters to alien abduction to killer clowns to stalkers, spiders, and dozens of other topics. If you've ever wanted to get scared senseless while laughing your ass off, this is the show for you. And don't take our word for it. Scared All the Time is part of the Astonishing Legends Network, so they've got the stamp of approval from some of the best podcasters in the biz.
The Podfathers.
Episodes drop for free every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts, or head over to patreon.com/scaredallthetime to become a subscriber and get access to bonus episodes, live shows, exclusive merch, and even a Button of the Month club. Now, others have claimed to have heard the sound of furniture being moved above them, coming from the room that once housed the roulette wheel and the gambling tables when Bellhurst was a speakeasy and a gambling casino. Now, as we said, Bellhurst is very beautiful, and it's not small. I mean, it's a large property, and guests are welcome to go out and enjoy, long walks, at the lake and across the grounds. But some guests who walk the surrounding forests claim to hear mysterious voices, almost like whispering. These strange, disembodied voices are described to be like a conversation being held by ghosts just beyond the veil. Like you can barely tell, but it sounds like multiple people having a conversation. You know, when we talk about the veil, you know, that, you know, the barrier between the spirit and the physical world. And when the veil is thin, or there are areas where the veil is thin. I thought this was interesting because, you know, Adam and I talk about those transitional spaces or liminal spaces.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you have a natural transition. That is where the veil thins. So stairwells and doorways and things like that. But imagine if you've got, you know, a meadow or, you know, flat ground that leads to the edge of a forest. I mean, that's about as transitional as it comes, you know, right there along that tree line. This is where people claim to hear these voices. So maybe they are. You know, maybe they get close enough to one of those liminal spaces and they can hear conversations from the other side.
It's possible, yeah.
Now, there is another ghost that's said to haunt the grounds of Bellhurst Castle, and that is Dick O'Brien. Now, Dick O'Brien was the caretaker of the hotel until his death in 1972. O'Brien was said in life to be a prankster. And there have been many stories of disembodied laughter and harmless, unexplainable pranks played throughout the hotel. Hey, remember the tablecloths tied to the chandelier? I mean,
Yep.
You know, that's a pretty good one.
It's harmless.
And it would probably be easily carried out by a ghost.
No ladder needed.
But the caretaker is not shy about making his presence known, and guests have reported seeing him walk up the stairs or sitting in his favorite chair. And there's also all the pranks and stuff that are pulled on staff and guests. So he seems to be around quite a bit. They say O'Brien's spirit is friendly, but if he catches anyone causing damage to the property on the grounds, he is said to lash out. If Dick does not approve of you or your behavior, he will flick your room light switches on and off just to irritate you. So if you go there, now I'm like, don't share this. You know, don't tell people this, because now you're going to get people that are going to try and do something that's going to irritate Mr. O'Brien just to see if their lights flicker on and off. Unless you have a special switch that you can make people's lights flicker on and off that misbehave at your hotel. And you tell them, Mr. O'Brien's ghost is going to come flick your lights on and off.
Yep.
Oh, whatever. And then you make it happen.
Right.
That would be pretty. If I owned a haunted hotel, I would do that.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be down there at the circuit breaker. What do you think of this? You know,
like that video.
Pee on one of my, you know, azalea bushes. You know,
right.
You know,
not put the tongs back at the breakfast buffet.
Yeah.
There's a video of, and I don't know how true it is. It could be just one of those fake things, but the video is like my daughter is upstairs playing the Ouija board with her friends, and he shuts the breaker off to the house while they're doing it, and you hear them scream. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I don't know how much truth is in that, but if it's true, that's hilarious, and it's like what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I started poking around, looking at like TripAdvisor and places that had reviews from guests, just on the chance that I could find something that someone had experienced and they posted it in a review. I found this one on NewYorkHauntedHouses.com. And one person left this review of a stay in Bellhurst Castle. It says, my parents went to Bellhurst for a weekend vacation, unfortunately leaving me at home. But they came back with one heck of a crazy story. Your parents took a weekend away, left you at home, and they come home with a crazy story. I'd be like, I don't want to hear it. You know?
Right.
Dad wore the Batman mask, you know. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm not listening. No.
He brought out the banana hammock. And
But it goes on. It says, my dad, on the first morning they stayed there, woke up early in the morning to his alarm going off. He thought it was weird, considering he never sets alarms. And even weirder that they'd planned to just hang out that day. So they had no reason to have an alarm to wake them up early.
Right.
So he said he got up, turned the alarm off, and as soon as he did, the TV turned itself on. She said, we're still not sure if it was the ghost of Isabella playing a prank, since she's been known to fiddle with the bathroom taps and sing on occasion. So crazy, I wish I'd been there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Wish you'd been there until you realized why they went on a weekend away.
That's right. Yeah. And here's your sister.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I found this one, and this one is great, okay? And like I said at the beginning, staff they have the best stories. And, you know, Adam's been to a haunted hotel. I've been to a couple. You know, you can take the tours and you can hear the stories and you can read the little, the little plaques and all that stuff. But that is nowhere near as good as getting an in with a staff member, a bartender, a waitress, making a connection so that they will tell you something that they don't tell everybody. Okay. This is this story. Okay. This came on from the Q&A site, Quora.
Oh, okay.
And an individual named Deborah Good posted this response to the question, what was a paranormal thing you experienced together with others, so it was not, quote, just in your head? And Deborah writes, in college, I worked at the Bellhurst Castle in Geneva, New York as a summer employee. This is a castle brought over from Europe, and at the time when I worked there in the 1980s, there was a French restaurant and hotel. There are a lot of stories about the place and even a book, but two things happened to me that were witnessed by others. First, I was serving as the hostess for Sunday brunch. A couple that I had checked in the night before came down from the upstairs rooms for breakfast. I asked how their night was, and they said that the room was very pleasant, except for the women in the next door room sang to her baby all night long. She said, I had placed them in room 1, and next door to them was room 2. It was adjoining, and it was rarely used. It was the former children's nursery. It was the former children's nursery and is haunted. These are currently listed as the Bamboo Room and the Otis Room. So if you're ever curious and you stay there, these are the rooms to check on. The couple could have known the tale and just tried to spook me, but it always sends chills up my spine to talk about it. I didn't say a thing to the couple, but just smiled and took them to their table for breakfast. The second thing that happened was also related to those rooms. The housekeeper had signaled that room 7, which I believe is now called the Bronze Room from the layout of the online pictures, was ready. So I led the guests upstairs and unlocked the room for them. To our surprise, the room had been tossed. And I don't just mean that the bed was unmade, but furniture was overturned. A lamp was knocked over, the bed was completely stripped, and sheets and blankets thrown everywhere around the room.
Oh, that's wild.
The housekeeper assured me that she had finished that room. There were only a couple of rooms on the second floor, and each one was so different that there was no way that there was a mistake. I closed the door, sent the guests to the bar to have a complimentary drink while we waited for the room to be set back up. Said, still, this story always scares me a bit when I tell it. And that's a common thing that we see in these haunted hotels, is that the room will be, more than disheveled.
Yeah.
That it'll be wrecked to some degree. But the fact that from the time that this housekeeper said, "Hey, room 7's ready," and she was able to walk these folks up the steps and unlock the room, it was, destroyed.
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah. So, why would the housekeeper go, "The room's ready," and then have it just trashed?
Yeah. Ha, just kidding.
Yeah. And
that's how you get fired if you do that kind of stuff.
Right. If it was somebody else playing a prank, number one, the room was locked. Number two, they wouldn't have had time to do this.
Right. Yeah. In being so fast, they would have still been in the room tossing it when they showed up to let them in, if they were able to get in.
Right. And Adam, I don't know what your opinion on Bellhurst is, just based on the research we did, but, the legends are great. How historically accurate they are, we don't know. We know William Buck was a real person.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that he lived there for a period of time, and there was a story at the time that he had built the tunnels. The tunnels, interestingly enough, have never been found. So there's no evidence that there were tunnels there. That doesn't necessarily mean they existed, but it doesn't mean they didn't.
Right.
So, you can see a lot that maybe the legend was, maybe embellished upon historically significant individuals.
Sure.
But we're talking about a really old residence. Like I said, even though it's not like 1,000 years old, it's still old, but it was built with materials from a very old place.
Right.
The sandstone and the furniture, they were all shipped over here from Europe. Okay. So we don't know where they came from, but we know that the chances are that those items, those materials that were shipped over, were much, much older, than the structure they were being used to construct.
Right.
So what if they had a spiritual attachment that was brought over here? What if they carried some energy that may have held on to Dick O'Brien or Isabel or William Buck himself?
We talk about the stone tape theory.
Exactly.
So if you got the stone tape that has collected some energy, and then you bring it over and you compound it with stuff that happened at the place, you're bound to get something. And like you said, maybe the stones that were brought over are the reason that, not that it is haunted, but I guess it is haunted, but the reason that the energy stayed. Maybe you got one of two options. Either the spirit memory came with the stones, or the stones are the reason that the spirit memory stayed.
Yeah. The energy was there to allow them to stay. I think it's interesting because if somebody's going to tell me about a haunted house that's, upstate New York in the Finger Lakes, a castle is not going to be what I expect.
Right. Right.
So that is very unique. And, if any one of our listeners have ever heard this story or heard some variations of it, or, live in upstate New York and are familiar with the Finger Lakes and the Bellhurst Castle, let us know. And the best place to do that is in our Facebook group. It is called The Graveyard. We have thousands of members there sharing personal experiences. They like to share dad jokes and just, we belong to this group because we enjoy these type of stories.
Right.
Don't forget to check out our website, which is graveyardpodcast.com. And there you can find links to purchase Graveyard Tales merchandise, and be sure and go check that out. We've got some new stuff out there. Get you some new Graveyard Tales merch, the Skull Mike logo or the Film Noir poster. You can get that on all kinds of different products. You can listen to the show on our website, but that's also where you can become a patron. And we thank everyone who has donated to the work that Adam and I do. We sincerely appreciate it. And we have a ton of bonus content, as we've mentioned at the top of the show. That is where you can access all of that right there. Please don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. It brings us up the charts, and it makes it easier for people to find the show, which in essence brings more people into the graveyard, which is all we want. So thank you so much. And until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.